Journey to the West, an audio drama series. Chapter 21, Part 1. We speak now of the 50 defeated imps who, carrying their torn flags and broken drums, rushed into the cave to report. "Great King, the tiger vanguard was no match against that hairy-faced monk, and we were chased down the east hill." The old monster heard this and became extremely worried. With his head lowered in silence, he quietly contemplated strategies when imps patrolling the front gate reported, "Great King, the tiger vanguard has been beaten to death by the hairy-faced monk. The monk has dragged his body to the gate and is provoking a fight." The old monster heard this and became increasingly enraged, saying, "How very ignorant this fellow is! I haven't even eaten his master yet, and he has already murdered my vanguard. How insolent! How very insolent!" He then ordered, "Bring my armor. I've only heard about this Sun Xingzhe, or whatever he's called. Let me go out there and see what sort of 9-headed, 8-tailed monk he really is. I'll capture him and have him pay for the life of my tiger vanguard." The imps hurriedly brought out his armor. The old monster tidied himself and took out a steel trident before jumping out of the cave, leading his imps. The great sage stood outside the gate and saw the monster come out. He truly looked rather valiant. Look at how well he was dressed. His golden helmet and armor shone brightly under the sun. Decorated with pheasant feathers, his robe shared the same yellow color of goslings. Every accessory on him was blindingly colorful. He wore deerskin boots dyed with the blossoms of the scholar tree. With steel trident in his hands, he was no lesser than the illustrious sage from old. The old monster came out of the gate and yelled at the top of his voice, "Which one of you is Sun Xingzhe?" Standing on the tiger monster's corpse, holding the compliant iron rod, Xingzhe answered, "Your maternal grandfather Sun is right here. Bring my master out now." The monster took a closer look and saw what a tiny crooked body and emaciated face Xingzhe had, totaling to less than 4 chi. He laughed and said, Poor thing, I was just wondering what kind of invincible hero you might be. Turns out you are nothing but a sick pile of skin and bones." Xingzhe sneered and said, "You, son, have no judgment. Your maternal grandfather surely is small in size, but if you are willing to hit me on the head with the handle of your trident, I will grow by 3 chi. The monster said, "Keep your head high, then, and have a taste of my handle." The great sage wasn't afraid at all. The monster indeed struck down once, but with a slight bend of his waist, Xingzhe did grow as much as 3 chi, now about 1 zhang tall in total. Panicking, the monster put down his trident and shouted, "Sun Xingzhe, why are you displaying these defensive tactics at my door? Quit the flowery tricks. Come up and we can have a true show of force." Xingzhe laughed and said, "Oh, my son, as the saying goes, when feelings take over, don't raise your hand, but once you raise your hand, feelings matter no more. Your maternal grandfather can be quite heavy-handed. I'm afraid you won't be able to handle 1 strike from this rod." Not interested in any more talk, the monster turned his steel trident and stabbed right towards Xingzhe's chest. The great sage was what we call, the expert is never hectic, while the hectic is never an expert. He raised his iron rod and did a trick called Black Dragon Sweeping the Ground. Pushing the steel trident away, he once again aimed right at the head. The pair fought before the entrance of Yellow Wind Cave, and what a splendid fight it was! The Monster King unleashed his anger as the great sage showed off his might. One wanted the other's life to pay for his vanguard, the other wanted to save the elder. The trident and rod went at each other back and forth. Whoever got hit would certainly meet his fate in the underworld. Fast hands and eyes were a must, but so was a body of the strongest build. Both were fighting with no regard to their lives. There was no way of knowing who would come out safe and who would be hurt. The old monster fought the great sage for 30 rounds without declaring a victor. Xingzhe was eager to see results, so he used the trick we coined body beyond body. After plucking a handful of hair and chewing them to pieces in his mouth, he blew them upward and shouted, "Change!" The hair transformed into tens and hundreds of Xingzhe, all dressed the same and wielding the same iron rod. They surrounded the monster in midair. The monster began to panic, so he also used his powers. With a quick turn of his head, he stared at the ground in the southeast direction before opening his mouth 3 times and blowing out a mouthful of air. Suddenly, a gust of yellow wind began blowing in the air. Splendid wind! How very awesome! Uprooting trees and crushing hills, it stirred rivers from their bottom up. It shook palaces in heaven and almost collapsed halls of hell. Every god above was shouting and looking for their animals, while others lost their way and treasures. No structure could be spared from the wind, as everything in the skies lost their light. No one could hear each other, as this wind was never before seen in this world. The universe was on the verge of cracking open. The entire land was nothing but shivers. The monster wielded this violent wind while all the little Xingzhes made from Great Sage Sun's hair circled wildly in midair like a spinning wheel. None could raise their rod anymore. How were they able to go anywhere near? Alarmed, Xingzhe gave a shake and retrieved the hair back on his body. Alone and with the iron rod raised, he came up for another strike, only to be blown by a mouthful of yellow wind right in the face by the monster. His fire eyes and golden pupils were forced shut tight, unable to open. No longer able to wield his iron rod, he had to escape in defeat. The monster then withdrew the wind and returned to his cave. We will speak no more on that. We instead turned to Zhu Bajie. When he saw the yellow wind rising and the universe going dark, he led the horse and guarded the luggage before crouching in a mountain gap. Not daring to open his eyes or raise his head, he could only keep reciting scriptures and pray. He had no idea whether Xingzhe won or lost, or whether his master was dead or alive. Just as he was in confusion, the wind had settled and the sun came back out again. He looked up and stared towards the cave entrance, but he could find no weapon or drum. The fool had no courage to go up to the doors, and he also feared that no one was left to watch the luggage and horse. It was certainly a dilemma that sent him panicking to no end. As he was deep in worry, he heard Great Sage Sun shouting from the west. Only then did he rise and go towards him, saying, "Elder brother, it was a terrible wind. Where are you coming from?" Xingzhe waved his hand and said, "Formidable, truly formidable. Ever since I've been alive, Elder Sun has never witnessed such violent wind. The old monster wielded a steel trident and came up to fight me. We fought for over 30 rounds before Elder Sun used that body-beyond-body trick and had him surrounded. He panicked, and that's why he produced this wind. How very ferocious, I could barely stand still. So I withdrew my tricks and braved the wind for an exit. Ah, formidable wind indeed. Elder Sun could summon wind and call for rain, but they can never be as ferocious as this monster's wind." Bajie asked, "Elder brother, how is that monster's martial arts compared to yours?" Xingzhe answered, "It was passable. He had a neat way with the trident and could fight a draw with Elder Sun. It was only that wind that was too terrible for me to overpower him." Bajie said, "How are we supposed to save master, then?" Xingzhe said, "We have to put him aside for the time being. I wonder if there is an eye physician around. I need them to treat my eyes first." Bajie asked, "What's wrong with your eyes?" Xingzhe answered, "I took a direct blow of wind from the monster's mouth. It made my eyes sore and hurt. I've been shedding cold tears all this while." Bajie said, "Elder brother, we are in the middle of a mountain and it's getting late. Speak no more of an eye physician. We could barely find a place to stay for the night." Xingzhe said, "It's not hard to find a place to stay. I figure that the monster hasn't the courage to hurt master just yet. Let's head to the main road and stay at a residence for the night. Once dawn breaks tomorrow, we will come back to subdue the monster." Bajie said, "You're right. You are very right." And so he led the horse and carried the luggage on his shoulders as the pair left the gap and headed for the big road. It was approaching dusk, and from the south side of the road downhill, dogs could be heard barking. The two stopped to have a look. There was a farmhouse with flickering lamplight. They didn't care whether there was a way down or not and walked through the grass before reaching the gate of the residence. What they saw was fungus and grass blanketing the ground, with stones and moss scattered atop. Fireflies could be seen flashing inside dense forests as orchids bloomed amidst trees old and new. A secluded place seldom visited by travelers. What lied before the gate were only wild flowers. The two dared not go in without permission, so they called, "Open the door, open the door." An old man was seen coming forward with several younger farmers behind him, all holding tridents, rakes, and brooms, asking, "Who are you? Who is there?" Xingzhe bowed to answer, "We are disciples of the divine monk from the great town in the land of the East. We're heading Buddha's way to seek scriptures in the West, hence we pass by this mountain. Our master was snatched by Great King Yellowwind, and we haven't been able to rescue him. It's getting late, so we came specifically to ask for one night's lodging. We sincerely hope you can grant us the convenience." The old man returned the greetings and said, "Apologies, my apologies. This place has more clouds than humans. Just now when I heard your voice outside my door, I feared it would be some fox spirit, tiger, or bandits from the mountains. That's why we humble men have acted so foolishly and offended you. We had no idea it would be two elders here. Please come inside. Please come in." The brothers thereby led the horse and carried the luggage inside. Once they entered, they tied up the horse and put away their load before formally introducing themselves to the old man and sitting down for a chat. Servants also presented them with tea. Once tea was over, they were served with several bowls of rice mixed with sesame. When they were done eating, the old man ordered beds be made for the guests to rest. Xingzhe said, "Not being able to sleep is a small thing. May I ask, kind host, is there any place that sells medicine for the eyes around this respected place?" The old man asked, "Which elder is suffering in the eyes?" Xingzhe said, "To be honest with you, elderly gentlemen, those of us who left the family never have any sort of illness. We never knew what it was like to suffer in the eyes." The old man said, "If you're not suffering in the eyes, why are you asking for medicine?" Xingzhe explained, "We were at the entrance of the Yellowwind Cave today trying to save my master, but that monster unexpectedly blew a mouthful of wind on me and made my eyes painfully sore. They're now a bit teary. That's why I am looking for some eye medicine." The old man said, dear me. At your young age, dear elder, why would you lie? That great King Yellowwind is a most ferocious one. That wind of his is unlike the wind of spring or autumn, or of pines and bamboo, or of the four directions." Bajie laughed and said, "I'm guessing it's a type of headwind. A chronic headache, that is." The old man explained, "No, not at all. His wind is called the divine Samadhi wind." Xingzhe asked, "How so?" The old man said, "That wind is capable of dimming heaven and earth enough to sadden ghosts and gods. So savage it can break rocks and cliff, so lethal one blow is enough to take your life. If you encounter that wind of his and were blown, there's no chance to survive. You would have to be a god to come out unscathed." Xingzhe said, Indeed. We may not be gods, but the gods are my juniors. This life of mine is hard to end, certainly, but it's really making my eyeballs painfully sore." The old man said, "If you say so, then I guess you do have some background. This humble place of mine hasn't any eye medicine, but this old man here does have teary eyes when there is wind. I once came across an unusual person who passed on a prescription for something called the 3-flower and 9-seed ointment. It will cure any ailment in the eye." Xingzhe heard him and lowered his head to ask, "I would like to give it a try." The old man agreed and walked outside. He returned with a small agate pot, pulled out the stopper and dipped a little bit of the ointment with a jade hairpin before applying it to Xingzhe. Xingzhe was told to not open his eyes and sleep without worries. By tomorrow morning, it would be fine. Once he was done, the old man retrieved the stone pot and led the young ones back to the inner residence. Bajie then untied the luggage and unwrapped the bedding for Xingzhe to rest. With his eyes closed, Xingzhe began aimlessly reaching around. Bajie laughed and said, "Blind sir, where is your walking stick?" Xingzhe said, "You stuffed fool, are you treating me like a blind man now?" The fool just quietly giggled himself to sleep. Xingzhe sat on the bed and began meditating his divine energy. He didn't go to sleep until after the third watch. Soon it was approaching the fifth watch and dawn was near. Xingzhe rubbed his face and opened his eyes, saying, "What splendid ointment! I can see 100 times clearer than usual." He then turned around to look and yikes! What house, cottage, windows or doors were there to speak of? All he could see were old scholar trees and tall willows. The brothers were sleeping on a green meadow. Bajie woke up and asked, "Elder brother, what are you yelling about?" Xingzhe said, "Open your eyes and look." The fool quickly looked up and found the household gone. Panicking, he rolled over and got up, asking, "Where's my horse?" Xingzhe said, "Isn't he tied to the tree there?" "What about the luggage?" Xingzhe said, "Isn't it placed right next to your head?" Bajie complained, "This family is a lazy bunch, moving away without even telling us. If you let old Board here know about it, I might as well gift you some tea and fruit for the occasion. I guess they did this to evade compulsory labor or taxation and didn't want the neighborhood chief to know. That's why they moved away overnight. Good heavens, we were indeed dead asleep. How is it possible that they dismantled their house without making any noise?" Xingzhe hissed and laughed. "Fool, stop blabbering. Go check what note they left there on that tree." Bajie went up and pulled it off with his hand. There turned out to be 4 lines of chants written on it. The cottage was no home for mortals, but devised by protectors of the monastery. Wondrous medicine was used to cure your eyes. Do commit without hesitation to quell your adversary. Xingzhe remarked, "These roguish guts. Ever since we switched to a dragon horse, we haven't been making roll calls on them at all. And instead they're here throwing around empty tricks." Bajie said, "Elder brother, let's not make things up. Why should they answer to your roll calls?" Xingzhe explained, "Brother, you have no idea. By Bodhisattva's religious edict, the divine protectors of the monastery, 6 gods of the ordinal Ding, 6 gods of the ordinal Jia, guardians of the 5 quarters, and the 4 chroniclers of time are all tasked with protecting my master in secret. They introduced themselves a while back. But since we've had you around, they weren't needed, which is why I haven't been making roll calls." Bajie said, "Elder brother, if they're here to secretly protect master by religious edict, they really shouldn't show themselves in broad daylight. That's why they devised this divine cottage. Don't you blame them. It was all thanks to them that your eyes were treated yesterday. And we also owe them a vegetarian meal. They've been very attentive. Don't you blame them. Let's go rescue master." Xingzhe said, "You're right, brother. It's not far from the entrance of the Yellow Wind Cave. Don't you move around. Just watch the horse and luggage in the forest. Let Elder Sun head inside the cave to check where master is before starting a fight." Bajie said, "That's the right call. You need to make sure whether he's dead or alive. If master is dead, we can each head our own ways for good. If he's not dead yet, we will do our best to save him." Xingzhe said, "Stop spilling nonsense. I'll be on my way." And so he hopped into the air and headed straight to the front gates.